The things I've done. A better person would feel bad. Me? Got no apologies. No excuses. No regrets.
Hello everyone, it's the Axle Shifter here, and I am back with the next Forlorn Classics episode. And today we're going to be talking about a certain game that is now 10 years old because it was released back in 2013, and that is Need for Speed Rivals. This game was just really had a mixed reception when it first came out, and it kind of does now today because some people will say they love it while others say they hate Rivals, but I am, of course, in the first category. I absolutely really like Rivals, and I'm going to explain why and how it's still probably a Forlorn classic, because I always say Rivals is fairly underrated in the Need for Speed community because it doesn't really get the love or attention it truly deserves. Not saying it's as good as the original Most Wanted or anything, but it's still worth giving a shot over, well, if the Wi-Fi actually works and you can get onto it. So, yeah. Let's talk about Need for Speed Rivals. Need for Speed Rivals is actually a game that looks a lot like other Need for Speed games, like the older Hot Pursuit games, or even the most recent Hot Pursuit from 2010, and even the remastered edition. But it does differ in quite a few ways from those titles, and that being that this game, Rivals, actually has a kind of story, but also not really, because, but yeah, it technically does have a story. But anyways, this game's plot is mainly about the street racer named Zephyr as he tries to street race peacefully and alone, but along with other racers. But the main cop being Fate, that's being an F and a dash with an 8. Yeah, really cool, right? As he does try to stop Zephyr from street racing along with the racing in Redview County in general. But however, some shenanigans happen and Zephyr ends up stealing a cop car and ends up causing havoc in it. And in the end, Fate ends up, disguising himself as a racer, but ends up enjoying racing too much before then chasing off Zephyr, I would assume, and then ends up taking the role as the top racer in Redview County. So, yeah, that's the overall plot of Need for Speed Rivals, which is pretty simple, I would say, but I do like the simpler stories. And now I do like the lore, deeper stories in general because those are great as well, but I just think that Rivals just overall does it better when it comes to being more simple. But now that we've gotten done with the basic plot, let's now talk about, the gameplay and everything else. You can choose and play as over 47 cars in this game if you count the DLCs that were used for the Need for Speed movie, the cars from that film. Maybe I might do a Forlorn Classics of that in Need for Speed movie, but anyways, the cars themselves can also be upgraded and customized, but not through visual terms, like body kits or anything. I'm talking about just paint jobs and vinyls, which that kind of is a thing with Hot Pursuit style games in the Need for Speed franchise. You typically can't customize the bodies themselves or the spoilers or hoods or, the traditional stuff you come to expect from the other side of Need for Speed, which is, typical street racing, which involves tuning cars and customizing their body kits and stuff. Yeah, you typically only get to customize the vinyls and paint jobs within the Hot Pursuit style type of games in the Need for Speed series. But I still do like the customization of this game, and they do have some really good car choices, like the McLaren P1 in the end with the Lamborghini Veneno. I really like that car. That's one of my favorite cars ever, in my opinion. I might have to do a list of my favorite cars. But anyways, the same thing goes for the police cars where, you can't customize the cars themselves, but you can upgrade them and give them their own weapons. The same can be said for the street racing cars within this game because there are EMPs, there are little electric bombs, turbochargers, and yeah, you can pretty much also upgrade them as well to make them more powerful and effective than they were at level 1, or even just start, the electrostatic field. So yeah, that could be really impressive there. And now for the driving of this game. I would say that the driving is fairly solid, though it can use a little work because, for starters, it can feel a little stiff when drifting around corners at times because the game itself just kind of feels pretty sluggish when it comes to turning and drifting. So I would say that could be worked on as well. But other than that, I would say the driving physics are pretty okay, and I do like the visual parts of this game, especially the graphics. This game still looks really solid today, even despite the fact that this came out over 10 years ago. I would say this looks just as good, if not better, than certain games today, I would say, especially when it comes to other racing games. Well, racing games today still look visually stunning, but still, this game does as well. And as for the soundtrack itself, they chose some really good fucking songs here. I mean, these soundtrack is easily kind of not the best out of the franchise, but still, I would still put it in the top 10 Need for Speed soundtracks. And don't forget, you can also play as the police car in this game, and which one do I like more, Racer or Cop? Personally, I like Racer more, but the Cop gameplay is still pretty great, because you could easily take down other racers without being caught because, well, you're a police car. And you can possibly even join in the races themselves and, not win because you're not actually a part of it. You're supposed to take them down and stop them. But still, and I also really like the weapons of this game because they're really fun to use. And I especially like the electrostatic field where you can just knock cars out the way. That's my favorite weapon in this game. But I also do like the stun mines, though it is pretty harder to keep them down and actually make other opponents get hit by them, but still. And the EMP can be a little annoying because certain the opponents can get out of the way, which causes it to not hit them, but still, it's a pretty solid power-up / weapon. And I also do like the turbo boost of this game, but it has been, slightly downgraded because in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, you could easily go around for a much longer time, and the sound effect in general is just way better. But as for just the sound effect in Need for Speed Rivals, it's just nowhere near as impressive. Yeah, personally, I still think the Hot Pursuit Turbo sound effect is better overall, but yeah, just that. The Rivals sound effect was just downgraded and it sounds pretty underwhelming, honestly. But that's one things I really don't like about Rivals in general. It's that, for one, the story, while it was simple, I still do kind of wish that it went on for a little longer and was fully fleshed out. Personally, racing games with stories don't really get received too well in general from gamers and other people, or probably even the racing game community. Now, there's several racing game stories that do work pretty well. Example being Midnight Club LA, where Judas, or Marcus per se, is the main character, but you still get to see other characters within the story of Los Angeles, and it overall just fits pretty well with the setting, and I do still like the story of that game. But in here, it is simple again, but I just wish that it was more established, per se. It was just kind of opening with that. But overall, that's really all much I have to say about Need for Speed Rivals, so I just recommend you get the game for yourself and play it if the servers actually work and you can get into it, because I've had quite a bit of trouble trying to get on this game because the servers, kept glitching out on my Xbox, and it just kept crashing until it get back to my menu screen. So yeah, that was my coverage of Need for Speed Rivals. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you later. Goodbye.